What's going on, agents? Your boy Sly here, back again with some more of that Division goodness. Now, it's been a while since the Division has been on the radar, and I'm glad to have another Division video under my belt. You know, being a small YouTuber is tons of work. You either focus all your attention on one game during a big release, or do a half-assed job on trying to cover all the games. So I usually try to stick to one or two games during a new DLC release, and then cover the important stuff on both of them when they start to calm down. So I did just that. While the Division was out finding itself, I focused solely on Rise of Iron. If you're a Destiny fan, by the way, check out my playlists on YouTube. I have tons of videos and guides I think you might like. Anyways, let's get back to the Division, y'all. One of my other favorite games of the past year, it's had some extremes. Had an extremely strong start, followed by a huge low, then back to a decent DLC release, and then followed by another low. Update after update, patch after patch, riddled with bugs and exploits, a confusing endgame, and a meta that only a hardcore player could get into or even understand. Massive decided that enough was enough. They needed to get serious, admit their mistakes, and fix this game from the floor up. Well, on Tuesday, October 25th, they did just that. Update 1.4 is out and is free for everyone. If you own the game, then the update's yours, even if you haven't played since the beginning. This new experience is yours to be had. So in this video, I just want to kind of catch everyone up on what happened to the Division these past 2 months, and also some of the major things that have changed, and trust me guys, everything has changed. So I'll only be sticking to some of the bigger issues here, but this is mostly just a quick review of the things I've noticed so far in Update 1.4. I'll have loads more reviews and guides out when I start digging into things here soon, and a lot more detail. You know, Massive went into the Division very unproven. A brand new game studio given the rights to a Tom Clancy game is a huge undertaking. Making it a multi-platform game, even bigger. Slap it in the MMO category that has a focus on endgame, and congratulations, you are now in the most difficult to manage gaming genre in the industry. You know, anyone can make a linear campaign, but to pull off something as huge as a post-apocalyptic New York City MMO and along with it a satisfying endgame, that is something even the best development studios in the world have trouble managing. Those game studios have already made their big mistakes early on in other games though, but Massive has only had one game to make mistakes in, and that is the Division. The fix to their mistakes is Update 1.4. Now, of course, there's so much more that they wanted to add, wanted to tweak, but what they did change is absolutely huge, and I'm surprised that they changed as much as they did within the time frame that they had. It shows dedication and openness that a lot of other developers never show. Everything from answering live questions every week on State of the Game, to the back and forth of the public test server, all the way up to flat out telling their fans, this is not where this game needs to be, we're delaying everything until we fix it. This is something that other studios would never admit to and would never do. A humbleness that transcends gaming and shows that on the other side of that huge Massive logo are hundreds of employees, each one of them human. Now, I've made a shitload of mistakes in my lifetime. All you have to do is watch a few of my early YouTube videos and you'll see about 100 of them in each. However, one mistake from a big company in public usually gets stripped, examined, and cursed at 100 different ways. So to stop everything and fix the game in the way that they did shows that not only did they learn what it takes to keep an MMO playable, but they learned it the hard way, and those types of mistakes, guys, are the best ones to learn from. Now, I'm not saying the Division was a mistake. Nowhere near that. It's no mistake. It's a great game that has kept millions online. But their inexperience showed on several occasions, and they were way too busy fixing bug after exploit that underlying issues kept growing bigger and bigger. You know, they were never fully taken care of. That is, until now. Update 1.4 is a breath of fresh air. Now, it still isn't the way I was originally hoping the game would be, but it is most definitely a ton of steps closer in the right direction. Everything you can think of has been looked over or changed. Camera movements, animations, loading screens, times, character behavior, in-game vendors, weapon stats, talents, perks, damage, recoil, ammo, gear sets, DPS, I mean, literally, guys, you name it, they have messed with it. The Division is no longer the game that you once knew. Now, there are some similarities, but it is completely different. Now, unfortunately, nothing new has been added in terms of content. Some content has changed, and from what I've seen, mostly for the better. Now, does this mean the endgame will still be a cryptic mess, where in most cases adding DPS hurts you instead of helps you? Well, ultimately that remains to be seen, but so far from everything I've seen, this game is definitely going in the right direction. Enemies are still tough without being straight up bullet sponges. Some of the odd, like overpowered elements have been tweaked, and it's now way more risk reward orientated. Whereas pre 1.4, you could have like max armor while being maxed out on skill power and like max critical hit chance. Now that's just one example of many where stacking of talents made this game totally unenjoyable, unless you put the hundreds of hours to find the right high-end gear so you could also stack that many OP talents together, but it's completely different now. In Update 1.4, you can still have, massive amounts of armor, up to 70% damage mitigation, but you'll be forced to give up all the other gear slots that could have been, like critical hit chance, reload speed, exotic damage resilience, in favor for more armor. You're going to need a lot of min-maxed gear if you wish to get anywhere close to 70%, so it still rewards players for sticking around and doing the long hours while making it playable for everyone else. Next, let's talk about weapons real quick. Now, the Division has a decent selection of weapons, but pre-Update 1.4, there might have been, maybe a handful that mattered. M1A, G36, PP19, Vector, MP7, maybe the AUG, M870, and a few others. Now, though, there are a ton of weapons that you can use because they are all viable. Of course, there will always be best in slot, highest in DPS and so on, but right now you can pick up about any weapon and have it perform relatively well. The best thing is that mods have also been completely reworked, as well as the stats within the mods. You can now drastically change a weapon to handle completely different from what you had before. There are now 4 stats that can be altered by one mod. Also, all that initial bullet stability, horizontal stability mess has all been squished into one stat, and that is straight up stability. It's been reworked so that the more stability you have, the less barrel movement you will be, no hidden crap, it's just the way it's supposed to be. Now, of course, each weapon has its own recoil direction and handling, so you can still expect weapons to rise or pull in a certain direction. That's just a straight up weapon characteristic. So while we're on weapons, you now can actually use weapons that would have gotten you killed back in 1.3, like the SVD, the SSR, the Police M4, the Marine 90. All of these weapons have gotten a facelift. For instance, the SSR, it now shoots the same amount of damage as the M1A pre-Update 1.4. It just shoots a little slower. The SVD was actually a favorite of mine simply because of the accuracy. Like reticle bloom was pretty much non-existent, and that's without any accuracy mods on it. Now it has damage to back it up. Bolt action snipers are now seriously lethal, whereas before they were pretty powerful but not enough to warrant use from how slow they fired and reloaded. But now you can get damages close to 100,000, and that's going to make you think twice about using this bad boy. There are many changes, y'all, just like that. Sidearms have changed. Shotguns are insanely lethal, and to me, it still seems like the M870 is going to be the dominant shotty of the update. Submachine guns took a huge hit a few months ago, but now they look to be more dangerous than ever. The AUG and the MP5 have had some tweaks, and they look to be some of the top contenders. The Police M4 and the faster firing assault rifles like the LVOAC or the lightweight M4, those are all now pretty hard to beat. On top of all that, many named weapons have stepped back up to the plate and are now at max gear score, which of course is 229 now. Currency, once again, useful, quality of life changes by the ton, and much, much more. It's the same game, guys, but it totally isn't. Now, unfortunately, 1.4 is dropping around the same time some of the most anticipated games of the year are starting to debut. Titanfall 2, Battlefield 1, Gears of War is already out, which that's going to impact a lot of people getting around to this. Since again, it's not really new, but it has changed. But when you guys do get back into it, I believe you all will be pleasantly surprised. Now, I urge all of you out there, the next time you're bored, y'all, hop on The Division and check it out. Everything you thought you knew about The Division is gone. So be prepared to learn this game once again. And when you do, Update 1.5 and 1.6 will be dropping soon after. It's much more solo-friendly and the rewards are plentiful. Now, the DZ hasn't changed all that much in terms of the way it's made, but all those, core changes made to guns, gears, talents, stats, perks, that makes the DZ a brand new place to fight. The only thing I'm not sold on yet is this world tier. Within each tier, you have a certain set of gear score rewards. Now, most of us are already in tier 4, so it doesn't really matter. But if we were trying to work our way up to tier 4, progression seems to be a little odd. I checked this out yesterday. I was doing missions on challenging and hard on tier 3 and they only dropped 204 weapons and armor. You know, one would think that doing the hardest stuff on tier 3 would at least drop a few rewards that would help a player advance into the next tier, but it doesn't. You want 229 stuff? You're going to have to go into the world tier 4, which like I said isn't a problem for like 95% of us right now. But if you're still struggling in the world tier 4, you should be rewarded with some stronger items on the higher difficulty in tier 3. That way you can slowly start to make your way back into tier 4 and being comfortable while you're doing it. Now I'm not saying they should change all the rewards, but if you're doing challenging in a tier 3 activity, then at least one drop should be 229 instead of a 204. This way you can slowly get suited up for the world tier 4. Maybe I'm just unlucky and I didn't get any of those drops, but that's the only issue I've had with this update. Everything else, guys, is pretty freaking awesome. Buffing certain things to make them extremely useful and then nerfing those OP items that were a constant nuisance in the DZ. I mean, dealing with the NPC health and kill times, which have drastically changed. The DPS formula, kinda. I mean, all of it is a step in the right direction. I'm also excited to see how well the loud vent break or the suppressor end up working. They pretty much rewrote how enemies react to agents. Agents with more threat will end up being recognized more. Agents with less threat can actually go unnoticed. So if you want to be a tank, you can equip mods that have extra threat so you can have all the attention focused on you while your teammate slips away to complete an objective. And if you're the one slipping away, you can throw on decreased threat so that they don't pay as much attention to you. Now stuff like that and fixing ballistic shield, pulse, and smart cover, I mean, it makes this game feel so much better. It feels crisper, cleaner, harder hitting, and still challenging in the same time. Now believe me, it did not become a walk in the park because tier 4 challenging is pretty freaking tough. But for those who completed the most difficult incursions in 1.3, you're going to find this update nowhere near as hard. Now they are looking at ways to challenge the top level players while still keeping it easy enough for the casuals. But first things first, all eyes are set on delivering the next DLC, Survivor. Massive said they put all work on Survivor aside so they could finish update 1.4. So that means they're going to have a lot of work to do here in the next few weeks to get all that stuff to match up with what's in update 1.4. But with this new system in place and positive reviews pouring in, I'm excited to see what Division 2.0 can do for 2017. Alright, that's it, y'all. As always, thank you guys so much for watching. If you want to stay up to date on everything The Division, Destiny, and here soon, Mass Effect Andromeda, follow me on Twitter at SlyNation or subscribe to me here on YouTube. I try to keep as up to date as possible on all the breaking news coming out of our favorite games. Always a pleasure, agents. Thanks for supporting the smaller YouTuber and keep an eye out for more vids coming out of Sly Nation here very soon. But until then, this is your boy Sly. Later.
Okay, Agent, I'm impressed.